Hello, hello. What's up? What's up? It is a new day, it is a new week, and it's time to get social. My name is KaVonna, and welcome to the Introvert's Social Hour. Today, I've brought two of my friends, Sabrina and Daniel, to talk about our love of musical theater. If you are a theater nerd like myself, this is your time to shine. I'm so excited for this episode. We are definitely going to have a fun time with it because if y'all know me, you know I am seated for a musical at any point in time, and the same goes for Sabrina and Daniel. So it's going to be a fun time talking about these things. Y'all already know Sabrina. She appeared on the Top 5 Rom-Com episode with Nicole. One of the many things Sabrina and I bond over is our love for musicals. That's actually, I think, what connected us even more in like the first time when we watched Dear Evan Hansen together in San Diego. So that plays an integral part in our friendship. And then for Daniel, currently living in Washington, D.C., Daniel spends his time exploring the city and what it has to offer, whether it's music, food, museums, etc. So I brought Daniel and Sabrina for this specific episode because they are people I have experienced shows with and nerded out about shows. Especially Daniel. Daniel plays a huge part in my journey for musical theater. I learned a lot from him for sure, and he's the reason why I watch Wicked, dived into Kinky Boots, and so many other shows. So shout out to your old Mini Cooper, Lola. um, Hopefully she's somewhere out there. But yeah, please welcome Daniel and Sabrina. Woo woo.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
How are y'all today? How's life?
Good, good. I'm excited to see you.
Same.
Yes, I'm so excited, KaVonna. Even though I'm only like 3 hours away, I'm excited to see you.
Every mile counts.
You're right. You're right.
Honestly, I'm surprised it's still light for both of you. I was like, it's 8 o'clock there.
Yeah.
It's kind of terrifying sometimes.
I love it. It doesn't get dark till like almost 9 at this point. Well, here's the thing, because this isn't weird to me because in London and like England in the summer, it didn't get dark till like 10 p.m. Yeah. Uh-huh. So those are vibes. I love because you could just be out and about and just vibing.
I don't know if I could do that.
Once. I love it. And I went to Idaho once, and that's how it was. And it was amazing because I love
Idaho.
Yes, Idaho.
No offense to anybody from Idaho, but Idaho.
Yes, my best friend lives there.
I love that for you.
No, I love that. Okay.
I love that for your best friend too.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm super excited to talk about this with y'all because we do all love musicals, and we've all found connections to them in our life, whether it's earlier on and later on. Y'all know, like we did musicals in college, and we've all found ways to participate in different like creative spaces, so that plays a huge part in also our just general journeys. So yeah, this is going to be a fun time. I'm excited. But so my first question for y'all is, what makes musicals so special to you? Like, what sets musicals apart from like other different art forms? Let's start off there. And then with that, I want to know, like, what was your first musical encounter? Sabrina's pointing to Daniel.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go first.
I think for me, it doesn't. I was thinking about it of like, why do I like musicals? Why is that a thing? And it really comes down to, and this is gonna get like really sappy, and I'm really like, let's not cry. But I think for me, like with my aunt, like growing up and everything, like I think one of the only memories I have of her is with musical theater, like her performing as the Wicked Witch in The Wiz in high school, and that being like the last thing she did before going to the military and everything. So I think that started off like where I really love musicals and where that all kind of started. I think now it's kind of a way to like step away from like the crappiness that is everyday life, especially in musicals that are a lot more like whimsical or like magical in a different world. Like, period. Pull me into that world. Make me forget that my problems exist. And so I think that's why I like with musicals that are a lot more realistic or like real life, quote unquote. Like I'm like, you really have to get me in there.
Yeah.
Because if not, it reminds me too much of my life and like let's get over it.
Yeah. I can see that. I can relate.
I know. I was like, I think out of all of us, I'm the one who likes the realism most.
Yeah, you do.
I like sad things.
You eat that up. You're like,
I do. I really do. I really do. Um, I also grew up. I grew up with musicals. Like that's all I've ever known. Like the first thing I ever sang was the song from Grease.
Which
First
one?
words to sing. Oh, I need a man who can keep me satisfied.
I
Those
love
period.
that.
lines. I was 2
Go ahead.
in the
Go off.
kitchen. And so like they've just been part of my life. I also love just how far reaching and broad musical is because we're mostly talking musical theater today, but my foundational musicals were Disney.
Yeah.
All of the Disney musical movies, like there are
Mhm.
so many movies or so many shows like that just have that title like musical episode or musical
Mhm.
movie tied to it, movie musical. And
Yeah.
I'm just like they've been foundational to my life. They are the things that I always come back to. Like most of my comfort movies are those. And so it's just like been huge. But I'm also a storyteller. I've loved stories my whole life. Like as humans, we
Yeah.
love stories. We've been doing
Mhm.
it since the beginning. We told stories before we wrote them, and then we came back to telling them. And with like
Yeah.
movies and musicals, and there's a reason we see that overlap, I think. And so I'm just like, I think people like it. Like there's the reason we have that phrase of like, I could just burst into song and dance, and it's because that's what we would like to do. But like, not all of us can do it.
Mhm.
Not all of us are very good at it. So like to see people do it and to see it on stage and to be there with them, because I think live theater is just so amazing.
Yeah.
It's just so good. It's just so good. They just draw you in, and like I said, I like the realism. I like the stuff that's based in real life. They're not my favorites always, but I like it because it feels like people are just working through things in a more palatable way than other
Okay.
things. I just love them.
Okay. I can relate to like what y'all were saying. Also, so what's hilarious is I have like phases of my life in the sense, like also too, Sabrina, like Disney played a huge impact. But when I was really thinking about it, technically the first musical I fell in love with was The Wiz because I watched that movie when I was also super young. Like my mom was saying, I was singing at like 3 years old, you know? Um, and then there was like this pause. Like I loved The Wiz and I loved, like all the Disney musicals. And my
Mhm.
first introduction to like the true like real musical theater world was
Mhm.
my high school did a production of In the Heights, and I
Oh,
I would wait outside the multi-purpose
Oh,
room waiting for my mom to pick me up, and I was like, ooh, what is this? I was just like, okay, and then searched it up. Didn't watch it in person, if you know what I mean, but like um that was my first like intro, and then the first musical I watched was Waitress with Daniel.
yeah.
First
Oh,
first
yeah, yeah,
first
yeah.
Broadway
I
musical.
remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a time. That
I
was the
know.
time.
Yeah. But no, I totally agree with what something that Daniel said was like a form of escapism. That's in the connection to what Sabrina said, like storytelling. That's why I love stories in a way of just like going into new worlds and other worlds. For me, it's a half and half. I think I'm kind of in the middle between y'all. I don't need it to
mhm.
be a new world, but I get intrigued with that because then we get to see like
Yeah.
the magic of theater a little bit more because they gotta have to play around on stage. So
Mhm.
those are when like things like Wicked
Mhm.
become really cool,
Oh,
or like even like Phantom, even though with like the little magic tricks they do throughout the show, things like that.
I have my own
why was I
opinions on
thinking I
fandom.
was listen, I was thinking the same thing where Phantom feels like it's kind of not real, but it's very real. It's also very creepy.
Exactly.
Love it. One of my favorites. Love it. Creepy. But because of all those things you mentioned, yeah.
Yes. So, and I didn't watch it till last year, so it was very much like,
Like the
yeah.
movie too?
No, I had watched the
No.
movie.
Okay, I was gonna say KaVonna.
I had that was actually one of the earlier films I watched too, like earlier movie musicals. But I think I
Mhm.
was so young to really understand everything. I just remember them being on a boat.
That's fair. You know
Yeah.
what? Emmy
That's the important
Rossum
part.
came in and she ate in
Hmm.
that movie.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, so no, I did. But the first time watching it with like the chandelier drop, then the snaps, and then things pop,
Mhm.
fire. Like I just love that. That's cool to me. I don't know. Um, so I told you like my like first intro. What was your like first musical you watched? And it whether it was a Broadway musical or like, an a different production
Regional?
of yeah, like, like for example, like whether it was like a school production, like if it was your musical or, something else.
I so I think like first one is obviously The Wiz with my aunt, but I was like three,
Hmm.
4, so like very, very long time ago. I think
Hmm.
for me, it was in high school. I went to go see the Wiz Wicked on like the touring show in San Jose in California.
Hmm.
Um and I was like, granted, I got like really good seats. It was the first time I had ever like gotten seats without like or gone to see something without like my parents or anything. And so I got really good seats. It was like third row, period, let's go. Ended up that they take the seats out for like the first for like orchestra, the first 2 rows for orchestra.
Oh,
So I
okay.
got there and the wall was at my feet. And I was like, oh crap,
Mm.
this is so cool. And it definitely, I remember being like, I could see her spit. I saw Elphaba spit when she sang. This is so cool. It was amazing. It was amazing. I was like, spit on me, please.
Oh, not
But
you
I
being in the
think,
spit zone.
yeah, it was. I remember the whole time looking at like, especially the set, being like, whoa, like this is what it like, especially because I like was aware this is the touring set. It's not like at its
Mhm.
full capacity.
Mhm.
And that's what it did. It was so cool. I remember just being in awe about it the entire time. And then afterwards, I think I was a little bit like, well, when's the next one? Because
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm hooked. And here we are, how many years later? We're
Yeah.
still in the same place. So, some things never change.
That's a good first, like,
That is a good
in
one.
the theater experience. That
Mhm.
one's a really good one. Mine was The Lion King. Because like I said, I grew up with musicals, so I'd seen so many, so many. But I'd also seen a lot of like I grew up on the old Hollywood musicals. And
Mhm.
so I didn't get to watch one in person. Not even like local. I saw like a local high school musical production when I was like 6 that like a
Mm.
high school put on, but I don't remember any of it.
Nice.
So it was my senior year. My senior year. The Lion King. And to this day, it is still one of my favorite live performances of a musical because Rafiki comes out onto that stage and she just, first of all, the fact that Rafiki is traditionally played by a woman in that,
Hmm.
Mhm.
just that alone, I was already like, oh, I'm in love with this. This is
Mhm.
wonderful. Whoever made this decision was a genius.
Yeah.
Um, Female director. I think that's
Oh,
where that came from.
see?
But just like chills the moment she lets out that first note. And then obviously Circle of Life is beautiful. Um, but I knew nothing about the changes to the story. I had no idea like what songs were added, all of these things. And so like to come to They Live in You and He Lives in You,
Oh,
that
iconic.
I
I
love
was
those songs.
Hmm.
bawling my eyes. I was crying. Um, I think Mufasa's death is one of the most beautifully and wonderfully staged moments I've seen in a musical to this day. Because just the way that it happens, like I didn't cry when that happened in the movie. I was like, it's a cartoon. And this one,
Hmm.
I was like, oh my God, that's a father. I just saw this man like die. And it was so good. And I also very quickly was like, okay, what are the next ones? San Diego, like the Civic Theater was just like where I was
Hmm.
looking at. I got season tickets our last year of college together.
Yes.
COVID
Yeah,
threw
I
a wrench
know.
in
I'm
that
still very
plan,
jelly.
but
I'm
like
still
Yeah.
very jelly about that.
I mean, she missed a good
that's
amount
how
though.
that's
It's
how
like,
we
That's
went to go
fair.
see Dear Evan Hansen.
hmm.
Isn't that how we went to go see
Anastasia.
uh-huh. See that
Mm-hmm.
show. That show got
Yeah,
me.
that
Hmm.
one was good. That show's a good one because it balances the two. It's not as
Um,
magical as the movie. but
Yeah.
it balances the two of like fiction and real. Oh, that one's good. But yeah, Lion King was amazing.
That's a good one. Yeah. I like Lion King's good. It's just so pretty visually. Yeah. I'm a fan. Out of
Also, the way they
curiosity.
make
Oh, sorry, say it.
the animals. I'm just
Oh
always
yeah.
like,
When they come through the aisles, I remember I was
oh
sitting
yes,
aisle seat and I looked to my right and I was like, there's a whole elephant next to me.
Literally.
It was
Yeah.
so cool. I was like, wow, life-changing. Put me in the show. I am the show.
Right.
I'm in
Let me
it.
be a grass.
Yeah, I'll stand there the entire time. It's fine.
Yes. Literally. I agree because I was so I haven't seen it on Broadway, but I saw it on West End and I'm assuming they're very similar. But I got orchestra seats and I too was not prepared, and I also was sitting at an aisle seat, which is so funny. And I don't know anything about the show of how they do it, and I literally turned. I don't think for me it was an elephant. I think it was like the birds. Yeah, and then everything else came. Because I was like kind of like, whoa, oh, there's more. So yeah, no, definitely. I remember sitting there being like, I could be a grass. Let me
Yeah.
put me in, coach. I was ready. For sure, for sure. With that though, I am curious, is the watching and listening experience, like getting the total like musical theater package different from you listening to it? Like, was there a musical that you're like, oh, I listened to this musical and this was it, versus like when you watched it, like watching it, you see something, it's like, ooh, but what convinced you just by listening to a musical out of curiosity? I could give you my so for me, because I didn't start really watching musicals a lot until later on as they became a little bit more accessible. But I have never watched Hamilton, and I'm 100% convinced of Hamilton before I watched the Disney version. That's one. But then before that as well, I before I watched Beetlejuice, I also had fell in love with Beetlejuice, the soundtrack,
Yes.
before I watched Beetlejuice. So that's me.
Yeah.
Hamilton's a big one for me.
Mm-hmm.
I discovered it junior year.
So
I listened to it religiously. I got people don't need to know it was a long time ago. In like 2016, so like
damn,
a little bit before,
so long ago.
a little bit before it hit like its peak.
Yeah.
I found it, and then I have every word to that musical memorized, every single word. And I think that's the first time I was still listening to it on YouTube back then instead of Spotify. But then I found out that all of the albums were on Spotify, and I was like, oh my God, I can just listen to all of my things. And like, I mean, also Beetlejuice. We used to sing that thing in the car all the time. I'm also a fan. I'm very picky with some of my musicals, so I don't like the whole musical, but I'll listen to select songs. Like I'm not a fan of Mean Girls. I gave my tickets to
how dare you? How dare you?
I gave my tickets to my sister and my sister's roommate because I didn't want to go see it. I was like, it's not for me. I know I'm not going to enjoy it the way.
I didn't know this. Why did I not know this?
To two people
Sabrina,
who thoroughly
this
love.
is the first that I am hearing of this.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Daniel, every time we would listen to it in the car, I'd be like, I don't really like this.
But I did not know.
But I love
that
World
there
Burn.
were tickets.
Yes, they were leftover tickets from when I had a year pass, or the not year pass. Listen to my Disney Plus.
I was literally gonna mention it because I was like, I remember we didn't get to see Mean Girls. I didn't know you didn't want to see it.
No, I was going to go because I had them, but then Cassandra had a roommate who really liked the show, and I was like, "Oh, you take them. You're gonna enjoy it a lot more than I am."
Instead of Sabrina going with a cherished friend like myself.
Sure, I was going to call you from Washington, D.C. and be like, hey, hop a plane and come watch this musical with me on a school night when I have work the next day.
You never know. I have made things happen.
You have. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know about that one, but you have.
Anyways, back to my point.
Yes.
I love World Burn.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great song. Listen to it all the time. Yell it in my car with my sister.
Mm-hmm.
But the musical itself, not my favorite. Same with
Okay.
Evan Hansen. This one, both of you know. Not a fan of the musical.
Mm-hmm.
Even after watching it live, I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
But there are a few songs that I will listen to and I'll sing along with because I'm like, yeah, these are good songs. These are good songs. So for me, I think listening to musicals gives me an opportunity to like really like certain select things.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ones that I love, I just get to access them whenever I want and just listen to
Yeah,
them on repeat.
I get that.
Especially when I don't live on the East Coast and I can't just go see them.
You
I
know what?
know. I am acknowledged of my privilege.
Mm-hmm.
I am
Yeah,
incredibly
KaVonna does have
grateful.
more privilege than I do. So,
I
you know.
do. I showed Sabrina my stack. Uh, can
I
I
don't even
just
want to.
can I just from my friends, I just want to be like, can you see? I was so proud of myself. This is my stack.
For those of you who cannot see this
Yeah.
on the podcast listening,
KaVonna.
there's like 50 playbills being
There's
shown.
not 50.
That's like 50.
No, I would there's
KaVonna.
probably like 20.
KaVonna's sitting there like, I don't have a problem.
No, but first of all, I am a girl on a budget. I'm a bargain girly.
I will say you do like you go out there to get yourself
Yeah.
some good price tickets.
I
You
think the
do.
most expensive ticket was Beetlejuice when we watched it for the first time. And that was just because we were
Yeah,
like, we
that
hopped
was
into, we hopped from Cali to New York. But no, I'd be paying $35, $45, $50. Like, I'm a girl on a budget.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, for sure. We're gonna talk about that too, because I gotta be a girl on a budget because these tickets are too expensive.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I did want to talk about, okay, so quick, top two favorite musicals of all time. So I did not pull movie musicals.
Mm-mm.
So it needs to be theater.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you mine, and purely out of my personal love, not the critique of it all. I don't know why Daniel muted it, but my top two, Waitress and Beetlejuice. And I don't think anybody's surprised about those.
No, no.
So one, Waitress, I
Mm-mm.
just purely enjoy it. Um, for yes, there's like the rom-com of it all as well. I know I'm a rom-com girly, but also to like the connection of friendship. I love like the B plot characters in it. And I love like this discovery that Jenna finds for herself and like the love of Lulu, her child. And it's just like really beautiful. Like, and you could relate to a lot of the things she's singing about in a different way, in a different form. Like everything changes is so like impactful to like those transitional moments in your life. And so I just think about that. For me, it's a no skip album, cast album, and there's some belt songs for sure on there. Like all the B plot. I didn't plan it. When he sees me. Like I know Sabrina doesn't, but like I love you like a table. You get a little goofy one in there, so it's a fun time. And then Beetlejuice, 100%. I love it for its escapism. It's just so cool and fun to watch, like and just be in the audience for. I've seen it 3 times at this point, so I was like, it's in the cards. Um, and just I don't know, I just love it so much. um all the songs, once again, I could play that album, and even like Girl Scout, like it's just supposed to be like this little like giveaway song, and it's good. I'll belt Girl Scout, so it's a fun time. Honorable mention, Once on This Island, but I've never watched it in person. But I also love Once on This Island as well. So
I this one's hard.
it is hard, yeah.
I think my top two that I'm like, if I could go back to right now, I think one of them is Hades Town.
Yes.
That one I remember when I first started at UCSD, one of the first like theater projects that I had to do was for theater and design. And I did Antigone. I think that's the one. Antigone, where like she like goes down to the underworld and like she forgets her dad and all this stuff. Um, I did a project off of that, and it was like a whole like artistic project, and I was like, wow, I don't know if I could do this, but it was like really cool to like build off of that story.
Mm.
And then when I learned that Hades Town was playing off of that story and like combining all these different like mythological stuff to like build it, I was excited to see it. And I think listening it for the first time like on a recording, I was like, wow, Ava, she gives her audience members like what we
Yes.
want.
Yeah.
And then I think seeing it was like her, and then the entire cast,
Mm.
the set, the lighting, and then the turntable, and
Yeah.
like the story and the way that the story is put on. And I think I like the fact that it doesn't really have a happy ending.
I'll never forgive him.
And I think in a way there is kind of a happy ending, because like the story just keeps going on and on and on and on. And so like realistically, she doesn't die because it keeps going back to the beginning and we keep retelling it. And so like, yes, it's sad, but kind of like what Sabrina was saying earlier, like like stories go on, and that's how we tell stories, and that's how it gets passed on. So like for her, um it's not over, and her story isn't over because it keeps getting retold. So every night and whenever the story gets told, it gets brought back to life. Oh, I could talk about it forever. And then I think the other one, which is really hard, I think it would have to be Beetlejuice, just because I remember when that album came out,
Mm-hmm.
like I was on it. I was on it.
Yeah.
I love that album. I have a Beetlejuice tattoo. How can I
Mhm.
not be on it? But I remember that one being like, because it was not real. And I love the movie so much, and the
Mm.
music was really fun. I think that's what got me, was the music.
Yeah.
Um, I forget the song that she sings, but I
Which
think
one? I
the
got you.
one where with the crystals,
Oh, everything. No reason. No
everything. Yeah,
reason.
yeah, yeah. That
Hmm.
one, favorite song.
Iconic. Yes.
And then Home, but
Yeah.
no reason is still top
No
tier.
reason's good. Yeah. Yeah. Um, so we both watched those together in when we came to New York in like 2019. I don't know if you remember, but like I don't remember exactly what part it was, but there was a point where in Hades Sound you literally grabbed my
I
hand
was
and you were crying.
tearing up. It
Course
was
she
the
was.
part. It was the part where Hades and Persephone are like dancing at the end, and like she's like, "Dance with me, like I love you, like I know you love me too. You're just so much in your head." Um, and like the music starts and everything, and that's where I was like, "Oh my God." It was so beautiful. It was
Mhm.
so beautiful the way that they were dancing on stage. And it got me. And I was like,
Yeah.
KaVonna's gonna make fun of me. And I know this, but it was so good. And then we got to meet her.
Yeah, you got the picture.
Yeah. I called myself a sack of potatoes. She said I wasn't a sack of potatoes, and then she took a picture with me.
Yeah. She told me my hair was
No, she
cool.
said that
Yeah.
if you're a
And
sack
then
of potatoes, well, then that just means you're delicious. That's
yeah.
what she told me.
Okay. Okay, Sabrina, coming in with the truth there.
Yes.
Yeah. It was a cool moment for sure. But
Yeah, it
no,
was.
if you're gonna cry, go ahead and cry. I
Yeah,
don't, yeah.
I was a literal baby in there. It was so much. It was so beautiful. And our
Yeah.
seats were so good.
They were good.
Uh,
Some theaters, so sorry, Sabrina, I'm gonna say this real quick, but people sleep on mezzanine and
I love mezzanine.
orchestra is not what you think it is all the time. Like
Mm-mm.
mezzanine is usually the better spot.
Mhm.
But yeah. Okay, Sabrina, what are your top two?
Um, I need you to know that because I am an overthinker, I asked
Uh,
multiple people, what are my favorite musicals? Because I couldn't think of it because I have so many.
one
It
of
took
them
me a
being your
solid,
sister.
yes, my sister went, I don't know. Um, I asked my sister's roommate, who's like a little sister to me. She said King
Mm,
and I went, "Ooh, that's a good one." But as soon as she said it, I knew like it wasn't top
mhm,
top.
mm,
Too many problems in that one for it to be top top for me.
mhm.
But like it took like a good 3 hours, and I came up with something I think might be a little surprising. Maybe not to
Okay.
you, KaVonna, because I talked to you about one of them a lot, but probably to Daniel.
Okay.
Legally Blonde is my number one.
Oh yeah. Okay. Exactly. It's exactly how you said it would go.
Hmm.
Daniel's
Hmm.
surprised, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
And I was surprised by this myself, but I was also kind of like, oh, come on. Like, obviously it's your number one. I was super skeptical coming in. I didn't want to see the pro shot. My sister sat me down for it. I was like, I do not want to watch this. This is going to be awful. I love the movie. I am personally not a huge fan of turning movies into musicals.
Yeah. Sorry,
And
Daniel's
so
freaking out right now.
this one got me. You know?
I think it's wonderful. Like, I think that I love all of the songs.
Yeah.
I think it is a masterpiece in adapting a movie to musical because they made adjustments. They had to make adjustments. They had to flesh out characters. They had to add to the plot. Like, we don't get anything with Elle and
You know, I don't know.
oh my god, I love him. He
Is
is
I
it?
my
want you to know,
favorite.
Sabrina, I have never listened to any track from this album.
No connection,
Never.
nothing?
Daniel,
Never seen
I
anything?
need you to know,
Nothing.
Daniel, that we will be sitting down to
Oh,
watch the pro shot together.
Nothing.
I
I
have
yeah.
have
introduced this
never.
musical
The
to
only
multiple
thing I
people now.
know, the only thing I know is that one song is really hard to sing, and then there's a quick change that is quick.
Well, it's
That's all
incredible.
I
There's a
know.
quick change there.
So those are part of the reasons it's on this list for me. But I remembered his name. I blanked. Emmett and Elle's relationship is fleshed out, and they're best friends. They're and I love that. Like, it's a whole thing. He gets this beautiful song where he realizes he's in love with her. Um, I personally think Elle Woods is one of the most challenging roles for a lead to play because she has to dance. She hits these insane notes. She does that 8 times a week. Like, it's all over the place. And I think it's something you can play very differently. She is not the same Elle Woods that we had Reese Witherspoon play. Not at all. She's a little bit more like, she's a little bit,
Would you
I
say
don't know how
like
to like,
peppy? Like, because I know Elwood's
she's
already
a
peppy,
lot more
but
peppy. She's
yeah.
super peppy, but she's just very much more in your face. And I kind of really love it. It's a
Yeah,
very
I
different
agree.
Elle Woods. But like,
I have like no.
that quick
I'm like
change is
trying to
beautiful.
understand.
We're gonna watch it together. I had my cousin watch it, and he was just texting me the whole time because we were like silent, just like over Zoom, and he was just like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god."
Yeah.
I
Do
had
they
KaVonna,
still
I had
have the
Nicole watch it.
scene of
Yes.
the like courthouse and stuff where she's like,
Yes. So here's the thing. I understand also that like there are a few things in there that probably wouldn't carry over very well because it's early 2000s. But I also think that it was done intentionally. Like, there's a whole scene with the frats where they do like a terrible theme party.
Oh yeah.
Which frats did back then. And he
Exactly.
assumes like a Jamaican
Probably still
accent, and
do.
he's a white actor. And it's like, it's very intentional. We are meant to know like this is not great, but this is frat. And then there's a song called Gay or European, Daniel, that you are going to eat
I
up when you
have
watch
heard
it.
of that one. You know what? I have heard you said it, and I have.
Mm-hmm.
I've listened to like a part of it. If you ask me any melody, any lyrics, anything, I would
can sing the
not
whole
give you
thing to you.
anything. I know you can.
It gives very similar Tango in the Closet, Kiss My Ass Stick vibes. It's very similar. Gay
See,
Flag
now
is put
when
up on the
that comes
stage
out,
too.
I will be eating it up.
100%.
I'm flying to New York for Kiss My Ass Stick.
Right.
And then like, oh yeah, so Legally Blonde is just one of the. It's just incredible. It really, really is. I think it's so good. They do so well with the storyline, and all of the plot B characters, like all of the side characters, are great. It's a huge, heavy ensemble musical, which I personally love. And then the dance numbers are great. Also, Paulette steals the show. Paulette is incredible. Singing a song about Ireland for no reason, having that little Irish jig in the middle. Oh, wonderful.
Daniel's so confused.
I promise it'll make sense.
It's okay if it makes you feel better. Sabrina's the reason why I have watched it. So if Sabrina hadn't shown, it would been, I would be confused.
Cassandra's the reason I've seen it. And I really, really didn't want to watch it. And then at the end, Cassandra goes, "What do you think?" I went, "I am so sorry. I have never been so wrong in my life. This is incredible."
You know what? It's one of the shows where I would fully expect Sabrina to be the one of like, yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah. I should not like this musical, according to everything else I like. But it's my favorite.
Yep.
Second one, polar opposite, Fiddler on the Roof.
All right. Now, I think I'm with Daniel here. I'm a bit shook.
What?
Okay.
Um,
Let her explain what
Sabrina,
the what
whoever
so
you are, can you please bring the real Sabrina back to us,
what do
please?
you mean?
what have you
What?
done? I'm just kidding.
Um, and this one is different because when I approached this question, I approached it
Okay.
as like, which is one that I come back to very often, which is one that I enjoy watching.
Fair.
I also tried to like Legally Blonde, I've never seen in person. It was on for a very short amount of time. I've only seen the pro shot, so I have seen the production. Fiddler on the Roof is one of the ones I've seen live. So I also wanted to include like the ones I've
Mm,
seen.
Okay.
It is top three that I've seen live.
Okay.
It was so incredibly moving. The staging. I'm a big fan of staging in musicals. I think it's
mm,
super important what they do.
Mhm.
And just that end scene alone, I'll get to that in a second, but that end scene for this musical is incredible. Um, but I think it's so beautiful. It's a beautiful story, a very real story of a family that's struggling. Obviously, it brings in all of the elements of like the history of like Jews being forced out of Russia during that time period. But I love Tevye. I think he's one of the greatest narrative characters to exist on Broadway. His conversations with us, his conversations with God, I feel are just great comedy and great, like a great, wonderful, accurate expression of the
mm.
doubts that we have.
Mhm.
Because he's very real. He's like, why did you do this? How am I supposed to do? You gave me three daughters. You couldn't give me one of that would listen to me. They all had to do this to me. And then also very real moments about like the stuff that's happening to them that these Russians are coming in. And so I think like it's beautifully balanced between that comedy and that realness. And he's just so cute and adorable, like the way he does all of that. I also am a big fan of a lot of the songs that are less traditionally like love tradition, love Rich Man and Matchmaker. Those are wonderful. But the ones I like to go back to the most
Mhm.
are Miracle of Miracles, the one he sings after he gets permission to marry that oldest daughter. The Taylor sings it, and it's just so
Mhm.
cute, and he just loves her so much in it. And then Do You Love Me? That song gets me every single time. It makes me tear up every single time I hear it or I watch it. Um, because I just think it's so good. I guess if all of this, I've done all of this for you, I guess I really do love you. And they've been married for like 20, 30 years. And they're finally asking each other this question. And I think like, oh, it's just so beautiful and very simple. I think it's one of the simplest songs and it's gorgeous. And the dancing is phenomenal. The dancing and the few dance numbers that they have,
Mhm.
breathtaking. Really, really good. Um, but what stuck with me and the reason this ended up being here is that last scene. So they're spoiler alert for anyone listening to this, Jews were forced out of Russia. They all were forced out of their home at the end of this musical.
Mhm.
And so it ends with all of the Jewish characters going in a circle. And
Mhm.
Tevye
I've heard of this.
starts the musical in a red jacket. We never see him wear it again until this last scene. But he starts with his regular clothes and they're leaving and they're leaving and they're leaving. And one by one they disappear. And at some point, Tevye puts his red
Oh,
jacket back on. And he is the last one left on stage.
that's sad.
I would have cried.
I'm already getting like, whoo, I
Yeah.
cried. It was, look at me. It's
I
so good. It was just
know.
I
so
have never
beautiful
even
and so
listened or heard it, and
sad.
my heart.
And it's,
Beautiful
and it was
direction,
just,
it
I
sounds
told
like.
you, it's beautiful direction. And that's why it's on this list. Because like, I have a lot of musicals that I listen to way more than this one that like has been, but like it was also one of the ones I grew up with. It was one of the first ones I saw. And so to see it
Mhm.
live just cemented it. It's in the top three because of that
Mhm.
one moment. Other things were beautifully staged. The whole dream sequence is super fun. But like that ending with him left there and then the symbolism of the red jacket and like him
Mhm.
having that last moment by himself on stage. Some of the best directing and staging I've ever seen. And it's just breathtaking and it leaves you, it is a sad feeling. This is my sad one of the bunch.
Yeah.
um but like it's also very, it's just beautiful. It's that bittersweet feeling and you leave with a good feeling, like you just hurt at the end but like
Mhm.
you leave knowing you've seen a beautiful story.
Mm.
um so yeah, those are my
Now
top
I want to
two.
see it.
I
Now I'm
It's
know.
guilty.
beautiful.
Now I'm like, okay.
I saw that one in San Diego with my whole family, like, or not my whole family, but like all my tias, my cousin, my
Mhm.
sister. I think my sister was there. Actually, I don't know. That might have been one that Cassandra sat out. But like all of us were just there, and we also quote it every once in a while, especially things from tradition because it's just so funny to us. Because it also makes sense with my family. But my I had a lot of runner ups and honorable mentions. Come From Away, I have to mention though,
Mm,
because that's my number one when it comes to seeing live. That is the greatest live performance of a musical I've ever seen.
okay.
Also
Never,
very
never
sad.
watched it.
Also very sad. But not
Is that
sad.
the
It makes a lot of
plane
jokes.
I have know
It
nothing about
Come
it.
From Away was robbed the year Dear Evan Hansen came out because it's a much better musical and it's just
Mm,
beautiful. It's a smaller ensemble, it's a smaller cast.
right.
People
Okay.
play different roles in it, but it
Mhm.
tells the true story of a town in Canada that housed a lot of the planes that were redirected after 9/11.
Mhm.
So it deals with a lot of the characters figuring out what happened and with the pilot. And like
Mhm.
these are all real characters based on real people. Like all
Mhm.
of this is real.
Hmm.
And it's the music is just so good. A lot of the dancing is like a lot of stomping dancing, and it's just
Mhm.
it's wonderful. And it wasn't. I never cried. I didn't cry once because they handled it and they brought like this human like joy
Hmm.
to
Mhm.
it because there was this forming of a community. Like these people still go every single year back to the town to get
Yeah.
together. Most of them do. They come together. They come from away to come
Yeah.
together. So that one I wanted to mention because it's my favorite one I've seen live. Also one that I didn't really want to go to because I thought it was gonna be too sad, but it wasn't. So
Okay. That's one I didn't get to see last year before it closed. But I remember you were like, you should watch it, you should watch it. And I just never got to it.
mhm.
So, okay. I got some on my list. Um, out of curiosity, I'm gonna skip to this one. Because I was curious, and I think it blends best to what we're talking about now. With the current musicals that are on Broadway now, or even like off Broadway, are there any like recent faves, or like even whether you've seen it or whether it's something you've heard, um, that you are enjoying right now? Or like so
Mm.
from also for the listeners, the Tonys just happened last week. We're recording a week after the Tony, so we've also got a little snippet of current Broadway shows um on stage.
I've been very out of the loop for this little
Mhm.
like season that's been
Yeah.
happening,
Mhm.
but
Even if it's in with the
after
last year.
yeah, so I've already listened to Shocked. I've
Okay.
listened to that album and it's been on my list. And then
Hmm.
Yes.
Tony Award winner Alex Newell is incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible, incredible, incredible,
Independently
incredible.
owned.
Owns
I
yes.
eat that up.
Yeah.
And seeing the performance just confirmed that like I would love to see it if I could one day.
Hmm.
Um, I would like to go see Parade because I was very intrigued after that performance and intrigued after
Hmm.
finding out it's a real story as well.
Oh, I didn't know
I
that.
don't know if I can handle it though because it's also very sad,
It
Yeah,
like
looks
it sounds
sad.
like a
ridiculously
lot.
sad.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's a lot. Some Like a Hot also really I would looked at that. I was like, I'm gonna start listening to that album because I hadn't listened to that album.
Mm.
Hmm.
Okay. What about you, Daniel?
I only because I didn't think I was gonna like it and like listening to it, and I really, really want to go so bad as Angeliette. I want to see it
Oh,
so,
Hmm.
so bad. And then
hmm.
I think the added aspect of like Justin being in it for everybody at home.
Justin.
Justin, we went to undergrad together, probably doesn't remember me whatsoever. Got to do bigger and better things. But I think it would be cool because it's like, oh, we went to school together and we did theater, and now you're on the big stage, and that's really cool. And I think it'd be really cool to go see it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely want to give a shout out to Justin on Anjuliet. They have come so far and I have not seen much of their life, but from college to now it's been incredible to see them grow. I met Justin through Mere Musical when we did Jesus Christ Superstar, and that was like iconic
It
itself.
was. It
Yeah.
was.
So yeah, so shout out to Justin. If you haven't seen Angel yet, go see it and support. Um for me, w- I do have the privilege of seeing both of those. So
Wait,
my
I forgot you saw Anne Juliet.
yeah, I
Yes.
didn't Justin wasn't there that night, but
So
I did
jealous.
see
Mm,
it. Yeah. Um I currently fell in love with Shucked 100%. It's a constant like laughter. The choreo and stage direction is really cool. We don't really get to see that in the Tommy performance, but there's some really cool moments um where they're dealing with props and dance with props that I think is really awesome. And then the music. Um
hmm
and then I really enjoyed Some Like a Hot as well, because I think people were kind of like nervous with Some Like a Hot, considering like the original
Mm-hmm.
story. But I saw it in previews last year, and I remember telling Sabrina and Nicole, like, no, like it's actually good. Like it's actually
Yeah.
good. And then Sweeney Todd. Um, the choreo for a dancer girl like myself. When I got lottery for Sweeney Todd because I was like, I don't know if I'm see it. I got the lottery, and so I was able to sit in orchestra, and I was just sitting there like the choreo. I wasn't expecting the choreo to be it, but I was just like blown away by their choice of, like we talked about a little bit, Sabrina, like movement, and specifically like their gestures. Like it wasn't about technical skills. It was like more so like, how do we get them to feel and understand the story through their movement? And I
Mm.
really, really like that. But yeah, I think Shucked for sure went into my top spot, my top spots in like favorite musicals, somewhere in that top 10 for sure. And then speaking of, I don't know if y'all have seen any like shows recently, and whether it's like at the Civic Center or even like in DC, but out of curiosity, have y'all noticed any like shifts in audience engagement and just like general respect for the theater? And if so, like can you give me some like examples of that? And then before though, I did want to mention like some just general things that have been popping up in the news. Like last year we had like someone yelling at Wendell
Mhm.
Pierce at for Death of a Salesman show. We've had a few different incidents of like people getting yelled at for using their phone. What have you seen personally in the theater? And what are your pet peeves of theater etiquette?
I so just recently saw we went to go see Moulin Rouge.
No,
First of all,
yes, yes, yes.
Jojo ate it, and I
Mhm.
loved meeting her afterwards, and it was amazing. It was so good. But I think like what really, but because I remember seeing this too, like start a lot more when like Patti LuPone started calling people out. I think that's when I started seeing it of like put your foot, and she like really she would call people out. She did not
Yeah.
care.
Hmm.
But I think for me, what like really, really bugs me is like when people are talking really loud. And I think I've been seeing that a lot more,
Oh,
especially like
yeah.
behind me. Um, or like certain shows, especially like Moulin Rouge, where like a lot of people know the music and so they'll sing along. And I'm like, look, I love the songs just as much
Yes.
as you do, sweetie, but I don't remember
Right.
you being the one that I paid to see.
Right. Oh, that's been something that's been on
Amen.
the
Say
news
it
as
louder.
well.
And then
Say
also
it
like
louder.
texting with like their screen really bright. Like I don't even care if the noise is on, but if you're like looking down and texting, especially right in front of me, I'm like, that's really annoying. I
Hmm.
didn't come to see your like bright screen. And then the last one, which is just like really, I don't know, but I like giving at the end standing up. I like
Hmm.
standing up for the performers. I like standing up like immediately. Um and when I saw Moulin Rouge, the lady behind me was like, "Can you sit down?" And
Oh,
I was
ma'am.
like, first of all, don't touch my shoulder. Don't touch my
Literally,
shoulder.
yeah.
Second of all, no.
Do you not see other
No.
people like, huh?
Yeah, I
Stand up.
literally was like, "What are you talking about?" I think those are my like. I'm like, if you don't know how one to respect them, but then also like when you have the time to actually respect them and stand up and all of that, if you're
Mm-mm.
gonna tell me to sit down, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
girl,
Mm-mm.
yeah.
Mm-mm-mm.
No. If you are able to stand, you're
Yeah.
standing.
And it's
Yeah.
That's
not
etiquette.
even like I would expect it to be like the younger people like don't give a crap or whatever. It's usually the older folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
It
so
is. That's true.
that's something wonderful that I have liked. I love that the demographics of audiences are changing,
Mhm.
and that it's a lot younger. It is like people who are actively like, yes, I'm so excited to see this. But Daniel, you listed all of the things that I hate that is
Yeah.
happening now.
Mhm.
Why are people talking while
Mm.
the musical is
And then they
over?
think they're
No.
whispering.
Right.
And it's like,
Yes. Sorry. I was like, because that was literally one of my notes. Do we not realize how tight these seats are?
mhm.
So I'm going to talk about my experience. Sorry, Sabrina. I'm going to talk about that
No, no,
specifically.
no, you're
That
fine.
that that was.
Yeah. Um, I am someone who will occasionally like whisper like a thing or two to like whoever I'm watching it with, but it's like
Mhm.
occasionally. Also, like when I watched Wicked for the first time after The Wizard and I let out like I was just like, oh my God, that was
Yeah.
incredible.
Mhm.
But as a rule, I don't like to because I'm like, we're experiencing things. The singing, thank God you said that, Daniel. I agree. I'm like, y'all, if we want to have a sing along, we'll go home, we'll go to a karaoke bar, we'll put this on in our car.
Mhm.
This is not what we're here for.
Mhm.
And it's rude. It's
Yeah.
rude because they're performing. And I just don't understand. I don't understand it. I really, really don't. I don't like mind like that. I think a lot of people are starting to like eat and drink more. I'm like,
Mhm.
cool, have fun, enjoy yourselves. But like if it starts to interfere with my experience of watching, then I'm just like, this
Yeah.
is impolite because
That part.
we are collective and we are individuals at the same time in an audience.
Mhm.
We are collective because we contribute to the mood. We are
Mhm.
individual because we each need to be able to enjoy our
Yeah.
experience. And I think people are starting to forget that. But on the flip side, something that I do love, I went to Rent. My last live experience was Rent.
Nice.
That's where I was super upset because people just were like not, they were nonstop talking.
Mm.
Mm.
And I was like, yes, I know Rent is a more popular story. Yes, I know that it feels more high energy. So you're like, oh my God, I want to like talk. But no, don't do that.
Mm-mm.
But like one thing I did really love is that that high energy is translating. Like the audience seems to be much more involved. Like
Mm-hmm.
people will be like, yeah, after like a really good note. And I'm
Mhm.
okay with that.
Yeah.
I think that's fine because if it's just like one, I'm not a huge fan after like of clapping after high notes or clapping after things.
Uh-huh.
If it's a dance break, absolutely clap. Absolutely clap for dance breaks because those are
Yeah.
hard and because typically there's a little bit of a dip.
Mhm.
But like clapping distracts from the rest of the lyrics and the rest of the
How do you
performance.
feel when like in certain songs when like the beat is there and people when like they start
They,
going like this?
they get off beat. So personally, just
Because
stop.
look, I like it if it works.
Yes, I agree.
But have you been in
KaVonna,
a
you take
place
this.
where it always works? Because in
No.
my experience, every single time they got the beat for a few 8 counts. And then along the way, and then
Yeah.
they don't have it anymore. No one keeps the beat.
Hmm.
So I'm just like, for
Yeah.
me, every time it happens, I'm like, here we go. And they start
Mm-hmm.
losing it. I'm like, okay, y'all. This
And then you have the
Mhm.
few that are still like trying, and I'm like, girly, you missed a couple 8 counts back there. You need to just stop.
Or
yeah.
when it keeps going, even though we're all very like
Uh-huh.
aware, like it's
Yeah.
done. That part
Yeah.
of the show is over.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm like 50-50 because I've had really good experiences, like Kiss My Ass Tag opening like that first
Oh,
night we all went
so
together.
good.
Mm-hmm.
Realistically, we were the rowdiest, probably worst audience ever.
yeah.
But
But
it
I think they loved it though.
because of
Yeah.
the show, it worked.
Mm-hmm.
And because they feed off of energy in that show, it
Mm-hmm.
was wonderful.
Yeah.
And I mean, we went back later to
I
talk
can't
to
wait
them,
to
and they said
stage
that they
door
still
that
remembered that.
show.
I'm so excited to
It's
stage door
gonna
it.
be
I'm so
awesome.
excited.
Shout out to
For anyone,
Chad.
Mm-hmm.
yes,
You know what? The last, I think 2 times ago when I was in New York, I think it was when I was with you, KaVonna. I was
Mhm.
like, hey, like we're in the city. Um, like any recommendations? Responded and was like, next time you're in the city, let me know. Like we can hang out. And I was like, period.
oh, yeah. But like,
yeah.
I think it very much depends on the show and the theater. And the theater.
Mm-hmm.
Some
Mhm.
theaters are more equipped for audience interaction than others.
Yes. And then also like you said, like show as well. I feel that because one of the most like loudest experience I think I experienced was for colored girls, but like
Mm,
so I was in a weird in between of like, oh my gosh, like ladies, please, because it was a lot of black people supporting black people on stage, and I was just like, y'all are doing a lot of talking, but at the same time, it was like so engaging. Like I remember like them being like, that was our best audience, and so
mm.
it's like this like weird intro because like some things were like funny. They'd be like, oh girl, don't do that, and it's like, okay, wow, that's for, that's hilarious. So it's like I get it. Um. But everything y'all said I relate to, and I just want to give some examples. So the whole talking thing, I had a couple behind me while I was watching Sweeney Todd, literally chatting up the whole time. They're like, "Oh my gosh, she's so great. I love her. You love her, right? Yes, I love her. Oh yeah. Oh, that was a great performance. Yeah, she's so good. I love that you love her. Can you love her when we're outside of the theater? Give her claps. You don't have to
KaVonna
talk."
was about to fight.
I was like, high key. I was ready to be like, I was so ready to just give him a little turn look, but I was like, no, KaVonna, don't do it. Don't do
You
it,
should have
girl.
done it.
But they
You should have
literally
done
talked
it.
through the whole entire thing. And it's like, do you not see him murdering people on stage? Stop. Um,
Somebody is dying. You should not be
right.
talking.
Yeah. Um, that's and like I said, like tight seats. So they're thinking they're whispering. I hear your whole entire conversation very clearly, and I'm not the only one. Um, once again, people checking their phone. Um, s- um and then one thing I know is, so speaking of like drinking and snacks, I don't mind it, once again, like you said, Sabrina, but something I've noticed is some people get a little too comfortable with the drinky drinks. And
Mm-hmm.
I literally saw one there, I can't remember what show this was. It was a pair of people, and literally they were getting up throughout the show to go get refills on their drink.
Oh no, that I
Oh
would have been.
no,
Yeah.
And I
no.
was like, you're not a theater person. You just came to come watch a show in
Mm-mm.
New York. Like that
Mm-hmm.
was very obvious. Because why are you interrupting all of our views, passing your people just to go get a refill of drinks, come back? They did that at least
Especially when they're in
twice.
like the middle of the row.
Yeah. They weren't like super middle, but they were like still messed, like they were interrupting for sure. Um, and you could tell it was just very like, girl, like seriously. So that was one that was annoying to me. Um, and then we've also seen how sometimes when people drink too much, how that becomes like another issue.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Snacking is fine, but if you're over here like, what's like, I don't
Uh-huh.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to hear crunch, 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 nibble, nibble,
Yeah.
nibble. Like I'm gonna need you to figure it
It's so
out.
funny, KaVonna. The one thing you grabbed was the quietest thing ever.
Right. I was
I
trying
love
to find something. I was like, I don't
no
know.
ASMR on this podcast.
Yeah. But yeah, for me, I'm like, that's fine. But then yeah, if you're doing too much crunchy crunch. But those are like, but the talking is like the biggest, 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 biggest one, and especially phone. The minute I see a little light on the
Uh-huh.
peripherals, like that's a problem for me.
And like it's not even like down in their lap trying to hide it. It's like up in their face. And I'm like,
They don't care. It's on brightest
It's
mode.
yeah. And that's why it's
mhm.
the older people because they need to see it really, really bright. And I'm like, look, Cheryl, no offense to any Cheryls out there, but look, Cheryl, now is not the time to respond to your best friend who is at the hotel telling you what time dinner is. Like, finish a show and then you could respond to your
Mhm.
text
Yeah.
message.
Yeah. So I definitely agree. And I think it's something that should be figured out. I am curious though. Oh, one note I want to say, it had got so bad. I don't know if you noticed in your playbill, Daniel, since you went recently, they put a statement in the playbill within the last year on how to have
Oh
proper theater
wow.
etiquette.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because that's how bad it got. After like,
I
the
just think
break
people
period
didn't
of
know how
COVID.
to act after COVID.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. So it because I look back and I was like, when did they put it in? Because it wasn't there last year all the
Yeah,
way.
no.
It was somewhere in between fall into now. So I noticed that they had put a statement in, hey, how to be a proper theater watcher. Like that's how bad it got. But I am curious, speaking of like the connections in regards to this, like, do you think ticket pricing has any like correlation to like audience behavior and appreciation for the art form? I'm curious. And I'll tell you why I asked this question. Because I tend to see a lot of people going to things just because they can pay for it, and say they went. And so sometimes they go and they don't have appreciation for it. They just want to say they went and like they paid $400 for it, but I'm sitting there $30, same row. You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't get. That's what I'm seeing, at least. Like, I've heard like, a lot of people brag about it. Listening to people's side conversations. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I just see that sometimes, but I don't know if y'all feel the same way or if you see other ways that it gets affected.
I just like, so when I do, this is the thing I remember I was talking about a lot when I was doing theater of like
Mhm.
who is being able to see the shows
Mhm.
and like how finite. That's the whole reason we went to go see Kiss My Aztec, and we talked about it because of
Literally.
like giving people the opportunity to see this when they aren't usually given the opportunity.
Mhm.
I think, and I was talking about this recently of like, I think the entirety of Broadway and theater, but especially Broadway and like New York in that context is really, I think we're going to go through a renaissance here soon.
Okay.
Because I think we're getting a lot of like movie to stage, and now we're going back into movies,
Yeah.
and we're going back into like, or I'm seeing that happen. And then I'm seeing a lot of like shows come up that either started because of social media or like get popular because of social media. Um, and then I think the third thing is because there's a lot, I think because of the shift towards movies and film and all that, I think the creativity, don't read me for filth. I think the creativity of theater and Broadway is going down
Mm,
because we're losing and like we're trying to come up with stories.
yeah.
And I think we've gotten to the point where we're like, we need a cute little reboot. And
Yeah.
obviously, I think this is why everything is going onto stage. Or the thing that I'm seeing is before a show crashes and burns, let's
Mm.
bring on a
Stunt
special
cast.
guest
Mhm.
to like perform. I'm like Moulin Rouge, you have JoJo.
Mhm.
Waitress, you had Sarah Bareilles. You know what? Love Waitress. Love Waitress. The horse is dead. Don't know why we kept beating it. It kept coming back, coming back, coming back, extended. And I was like, there's
They
only
left
so
and came
many. And
back
I
too.
remember when I saw it the first time I went to
Mhm.
New York, it had Jason Mraz. And that was when, like, as the doctor, and
Mhm.
that was when, like, I think I started to see a lot more like special guests go into theater. And that's how I was
Yeah.
like, oh,
Waitress
this
did
is
it
like
first,
becoming
really.
something. And I think it
Yeah.
was the theater's way to keep mass culture still engaged with theater. And I
Mhm.
think the more it's happened, the less popular it's become, and the harder it is to hold on to that. Like if we bring somebody in, it'll be great, it'll whatever. And so
Mhm.
I think with those special guests, they're also raising prices because they're like, realistically, you're not
They
like
are.
Moulin Rouge. I went to go see JoJo.
Mhm.
Like I will fully admit it. Went to
Yeah.
go see JoJo. And so like I think that's impacting prices too. And so I think once we go past this cute little like I think with fandom disappearing, that has also kicked it off of like theaters like dying, which like thank God. Love Phantom, but that bitch, it was a couple years overdone. It gotta go.
Not a
But
couple.
I think that show leaving Broadway, I think is gonna kick off like a lot of shows leaving. Um, like I honestly, I feel like Aladdin won't last the next 10, like 5 years,
I
even
agree.
5 years. Lion
I
Yeah.
agree.
King, I think so too. Wicked, I like, even though I love
I
Wicked, I
don't
don't think Wicked's
know.
gonna last.
Listen, neither of those two can leave until Wicked
Yeah.
cannot leave until I see it on Broadway
But
with
that's the
that
thing.
Yeah.
stage.
I think it's gonna go, and I think we're gonna see a lull in Broadway, and we're just gonna be like, people are still doing it, but it's not like the way that it. Because I remember a couple years ago, it was like bang, bang, like everything was new, everybody was
Mhm.
eating it up, and I don't think it's this like the Tonys now aren't as like love the Tonys. I don't think they were
Mhm.
as exciting as they were like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when like
Mhm.
Hamilton came out, and when what was the other what other shows around that time that came out?
It was like
Like
Hamilton,
Once on This
Waitress,
Island
Fresh,
came
and then
out,
Once on This
Waitress came
Island.
out,
Evan
Kinky
Hansen.
Boots came out, And so like all these shows like were I think that was like the Gilded Age of Broadway like nowadays, and then now we're going out, and I think when we come back I think we're going to be seeing a lot of like adaptations of stuff. Like I would love to see Wicked done differently, only because I've seen it so many times and talked about it, so like I would love to see it done differently.
I understand.
I would love Waitress to be adapted. Let's keep the storyline. Let's change it up a little bit. Would love to see that. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that, of like we're coming back, because right now we're seeing of like shows or cartoons or stuff being made into adaptations or whatever in movies. And like I think we're eating that up. And then I think once we've like gotten enough of that, like I would love to see like Moana and Coco on stage, but I don't think we've gotten enough of it on film. But I think more so Coco. I would love to see Coco on stage. I think it can be done really pretty with puppets, with stage, with music, with lighting, like a Lion King type of thing. Like with, I think it could be done beautifully. But I know we're not there yet. I know it would not be successful right now. But I think once we get to the point where we're like, okay, we're ready to see shows again, and we're ready to see it differently, then I think we can start bringing on stuff like that, because we're going to be so like, okay, what's new? Like, what can we change? What can we make crazy? What can we make wild? That's my 2 cents on that.
That's a lot to unpack. You said so much. I'm just trying to remember everything. They were all good notes, because one, you had mentioned like the celebrityism of it all. And that is like I feel like we saw Waitress do it so out and proud, so easily. But they, once again, they do it on purpose, like for the tickets. Sweeney Todd, I truly never thought I'd see it because Josh Groban was in it.
Yeah,
like tickets went poof. Jeremy Jordan's
like
coming back to
with Alex.
Yeah.
Especially now with the Tony.
However, I think that's slightly different.
It is, yeah.
I think it's very similar. Lord, all the musical people who are listening are gonna like be upset. Aaron Tveit is now stunt casting.
Who?
Aaron Tveit, whatever, the original Moulin Rouge.
In Moulin Rouge?
Angel Ross in the LeMays movie. He's the one who plays Christian in the original Broadway cast of Moulin Rouge. I think he's stunt casting now, because he has
that
a
the
very
official term?
Well, stunt casting is when you get somebody to do the role because they're a big name.
Okay.
So you guys were mentioning Waitress, how they brought in a ton of people.
Jordan
Mean
Sparks,
Girls.
all that. Who
Mean Girls? Please, dear God, Aaron? That role of Aaron was like played by all of these like influencer type of people, or
a whole bunch of TikTokers were doing it.
I don't even know enough
bueno.
about TikTok.
No bueno. It was not done well.
It's not good. But because they were big names, they got to do it. And it's like, and then also there are some singers who are really great singers, but cannot act.
Not great, but
or Jason really Mraz. Great actors who cannot sing. And like that's my thing with Josh Groban, is like I think he's a very niche actor, and it's a very it's a very specific role that he can actually play well. For like the Tony performance, I was loving it, and then he popped up and I went,
I don't like him.
I don't. I love him singing.
I was gonna say,
we're gonna be crucified, Sabrina. We're gonna be crucified. I don't like him. I'm sure that he
vocals
great
when you raise me
singer.
up,
but I don't think they're my taste, and I don't like his way of acting.
Yes, I agree. Because Sabrina knows this, because I talked to her about it when I saw it. I was like, I love Josh Groban. I love his voice. He cannot act, in my opinion. So I was like, he was trying. The makeup was makeuping.
We're reading him for filth right now, and yet we're the ones not on Broadway. Right? So
they're like, well, can you get on stage first? I'm trying to.
Could he have gotten on stage if he wasn't Josh Groban?
That's the thing. So then that's why I'm saying,
because it's the same thing with Nick Jonas.
Nicholas, where was Nicholas?
On Les Mis. He was on Les Mis.
He was in Les Mis. Well, he did the concert anniversary one, but he was also in How to Succeed in Business as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I've
Oh,
No,
seen
but
those performances and they're not good.
but then you know what? We can't shut the hell up about Lin-Manuel Miranda. We know the truth about that man. That man can't
Okay,
hold a note
so
for his own life.
KaVonna and
we
I
were
were
just
actually
talking
talking
about
about that
that.
and how like Lin knows when to bow out. That is his strength. He
Mhm.
knows that he is not the most, but I've heard him talk to people about why he stayed on for Usnavi and
Yeah,
for Alexander
Hamilton.
Hamilton.
Mhm.
And it
Yeah,
came down to a lot of other people being like,
that's
you
too
know
hard.
this
Yeah.
role. It's too hard right now. And I was telling
Mhm.
KaVonna how like when I saw Hamilton live, the Alexander Hamilton was wonderful, but he didn't pack the same punch.
Mhm.
Could he sing? Absolutely. Beautiful. It was beautiful. But it didn't pack the same punch.
Mhm.
And so Lin was also one of the first to leave both of those productions. So I think he knows when it's his time.
Mhm.
Mm.
Unlike a certain other writer who keeps popping back into her musicals
Sarah.
all the time.
Yeah. Great singer. Beautiful gowns. Beautiful gowns. But I just like I love Waitress. But you know, that pro shot, Jesse should have been there. And I'm just gonna say it.
Yes. Yes.
Jesse should have been there in that
Yes.
pro shot.
And that really upset because I
Yeah.
think I remember when Waitress was coming out and everything, it was like the story is for like whatever. Like it was like trying to be like a really good story. And I think just having Sarah in it reminds us like it's a production. Like she got money for
Yeah.
this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with Jesse, I was able to ignore
Mm-hmm.
that part of like you're famous because I
Mm-hmm.
knew Jesse beforehand,
Yeah,
but I
exactly.
think seeing it, I would have loved to see it because it would have been like, oh, okay, like this is why we fell in love with Waitress.
Mm-hmm.
I think with Sarah coming on, it was when we were starting to lose interest with Waitress and Sarah came on
Yeah.
to save it. And so I think it just reminds me of that. And I think
Yeah.
if I saw Jesse or even like Jordan, I would have loved for Jordan Sparks. I would have loved for that.
Or
You could be
Shoshana.
mine. Her version of you don't even get me started with Shoshana. She
Yeah.
can, I love her rasp. And I've
Mhm.
seen all those, and I can like there was much better options than Sarah.
Yeah. She's also
But
one
I
of
know
the
Sarah probably produced it and paid for all of it. So she was like, I'm gonna be in it.
100%. Yeah. I had talked to about this with Nicole of like it was giving like the Ben Platt effect. Ben Platt, very talented human being, but he has a lot of connections and there's a lot of nepotism involved. Like Dear Evan, we're gonna talk about that, but
He's so
Dear
good.
Evan Hansen, the movie flopped because he shouldn't have been there.
It was so I don't know what up was up with that wig. I don't know what was up with some of the choice. It was a lot. I've never seen
Yeah.
it yet. I have
I
not seen it.
know, and we're gonna talk about that right now, actually. So let's talk about that. Um, One, how do we feel about these stage to screen adaptations? Yay, nay, does it need to stop? Where are we at?
I am like 85% nay
Okay,
and 15% yay. And the
okay,
yay comes from the fact that it does make it accessible to a
it
lot
Mhm.
more
does.
people. It does
Mhm.
open up. I mean, again, that's how I started was
Same.
with movie musicals. But
Hmm.
I think there's a difference between movie musicals and stage to movie
Mhm.
adaptations. And there's just so much that's lost.
Yeah.
So while it makes it more accessible, it because like you said, these tickets are ridiculous.
Hmm.
They're so pricey for some of these shows. And I'm just like, I could never watch this. I have
Mhm.
to find a slime tutorial or I have to just listen to the album. Um, because it's so expensive. So I think having those adaptations are wonderful for that reason.
Yeah.
But it's just so hard for people to do them well.
Yeah.
Like we could fill another like 3 hours of me going on and on and on about how they messed up in the Heights, which is one of my
I know you
favorites.
feel, yeah, I know how you feel about that.
Everything that they
I
did.
liked the nights. I
I
don't
know,
know
I
about
did
you. I
too, but I
really
know
liked it.
Sabrina didn't like it. Yeah, I
But
liked it
Alabanza
too.
Ife. Alabanza Ife.
I just but so much I won't get started
I
because I
know,
could
I
go
know.
on for forever. But like I just for me, I don't understand making huge giant edits to plots or characters when making these jumps. Like
Yeah,
I am
yeah.
so incredibly excited and equally terrified for Wicked.
No one knows again.
Yeah, I like.
Because why is it two movies? Why are we adding? Because I've heard that a lot like stuff is being added. I'm like, why are we? And I understand like we should do
Mm,
things with it. Like that's one of the things, Daniel, you were talking about. When these things are there, they become stagnant and
mm,
nothing's done to them, and reviving them, like this is why revivals are often so like wonderful,
yeah.
because you can do things and you can change it and make it much more relevant, or like add details that make it a much more compelling story, or just
Mm-hmm.
change stuff up. But
Mm,
like, don't fix what's not broken, and don't change these things. Like my biggest issue within the Heights is we lose the gravity of Abuela.
mm,
Mhm. And
I
No
didn't
Mom. And
thrive.
I think one of my favorite songs is The Moms.
Enough is wonderful, and it I think expresses the like the struggles that a
Dysfunctionality.
lot of like Latina like moms feel.
Yeah.
mm,
In all honesty, I'm not complaining that the dad song is not in there, because I can't listen to that because it hits too close to home. It's
mm,
always so intense. But like everything I know getting cut, them making Usnavi this, you were dancing for everybody in the Heights when that's not his character. Also, Benny, terrible in the play, in the musical, wonderful in the movie. I just like, I don't like it when they do that. I also think it's not necessary. You know what you're coming to, you know what you're trying to get these people into, and then you're selling a false story. That's not the story.
Hmm.
If you make other changes, like director choices, movement choices, story choices, that's great. But if you're really chipping away at the foundation of a musical, don't adapt it into a movie. Leave it
Yeah.
alone.
And see, and that's why, so granted, hopefully successful, but I'm
mm,
like with Wicked, I think that's why I'm excited, because I'm like, we're not, and I've been seeing a lot of videos and reading of like what the separation between like making the two movies and all of that. And they were saying, and this is what I'm excited for, is like we get to see the walk from the classroom to like
Oh, nice.
another
Okay.
that's
classroom.
true.
We get
That's
to
true.
see the walks. We get to see the conversations that happen between Glinda and her friend, or Glinda, or like Nessa and Bach. We get to see those conversations. We get to see the conversation that's happening between Elphaba and Fiyero when they're like running away. Like, what's happening? How does
Mm,
Elphaba get to this point where she's like, kiss me like I'm wicked, like I want to see, so we
that makes
lose,
sense.
so I'm getting
Mhm.
goosebumps. We lose so much, and I think the movies are going to do, if it's done correctly
Mm,
again, I think we're going to get a lot more of the outside of the side of like in the shadows, in the corridors, like
yeah.
behind closed doors. We're going to get so much more that I think, like Elphaba, I think we already get a great character arc and character development on stage.
Mm,
But I think Glinda, I think it's done a lot more quicker personally. And so I think seeing in the movie, I think we're gonna see Glenda's character development a lot more.
mm,
Of like, I want to see like Glenda behind doors, just her, like, what is she thinking? I want to see that. Yes. Am I
okay.
just excited to see Ariana Grande on stage? Period. Yes, clearly. But I think we're gonna get a lot more of that like character development that we get like in the background on the sides, like monologues and like inner monologues and all that. And so I'm excited for that. I think that is one where it could be done very well. But then I
Okay.
think other stage to screen adaptations, I think people are, or like directors or whoever puts money into it, is like, we need to change it so it's like palatable for like consumer audiences. But I'm like,
Mm,
the people who are going to go see these movies are the people who know the show and like are excited to see it and have it be more accessible. And like, so
mm,
you don't have to change anything.
yeah.
Like, yes, obviously there is some stuff that has to be changed to make it work for film,
Mm,
and like you have some extra scenes now because you don't have to like transition, like you can add more stuff. I understand that, as long as it's going on with the original theme. I
yeah.
think once shows start adding stuff where I'm like, who the what is going on, or like, wait a minute, like in the Heights, I liked it, I really liked it, but I think we missed I really missed the mom. I think the mom,
Yeah, I
I
missed her so
really,
much.
because I think her song, it like made sense of like the messiness, and I was like, I know where we're getting to. I know what we're trying to get to in the story, because the mom is like, unless we haven't forgotten, like this family like is like they needs to fix their crap. And that's why I like that. And then I agree with Abuela, like I wanted to cry a lot more. I wanted my heart to be broken a lot more. And I don't think she was given that option. It was like, okay, we're at the end of the movie. And because they changed it so much from the like stage production, that I was like, at some point I was like, what is going on? Like I don't, and I hated, and I think that's what I hated, is it took me out of the movie. Because the entire time I was like, wait a minute, but what about this? What about this? Oh, she wasn't here when this happened. Oh, this didn't happen like this. And I was like, okay, this is why they need to be careful when they do stuff like this.
Yeah, like too intense rearranging.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Um, I like the idea, but once again, like it needs to be done right. Um, we've talked about some things like we're excited for. An additional one is The Color Purple. I'm very intrigued on how they do that. I talk about it in my Little Mermaid movie review, but I love Halle Bailey, and I'm super excited to like see that portrayal. But I also love Fantasia, Taraji P. Henson, Danielle. So like just so many people that I'm just excited to see like on stage, not on stage, but on screen. The thing though is it's going to be completely new to me because I'm aware of the original movie. I never saw the musical, and I only know snippets and pieces. So, but I am super intrigued by that. And I'm curious. I know Sabrina, you won't be, but also the Mean Girls one will be coming out at some point. So um that is something to be intrigued. Daniel, did you know about this?
I am so excited for
Okay.
this. You have no idea.
Yeah, I'm excited. Some people that are in it, I'm excited to see them portray it. Speaking of Moana, Homegirl is in it, isn't she?
Yes.
Yeah. So, so Aoli, thank you. I was like, what is her name? Yeah. So I'm excited about those. But I am curious though, out of the ones we have seen, and there's been a lot of time span, you know, from earlier in the 1900s into where we are now. What are some ones that have done a successful transition, and what are some that have done a little flop?
Phantom of the Opera. I
Okay.
know I said my crap about it, but I
Mhm.
still think the movie is
Mhm.
really good.
Okay.
It like, I think when I watched it and then when I saw the actual stage version, I was
Mhm.
like, that's really good. Like the
Okay.
movie was really good because it was very close to the stage. It
Mhm.
very like actually felt like they were like just record it.
I agree with that. From last, I haven't watched it recently, but I agree.
The new West Side Story.
Not the
I've
old
yet
one.
to see it. I've
The
never
new one,
seen the
not the
first
old
or
one.
the second one.
Okay.
Okay. Um, this is
Um,
not new to you, KaVonna.
no,
But I am not a fan of West Side Story.
I
I wrote
know.
a paper in my Muir writing paper from Muir 50 was about the misrepresentation of Latinos in media,
Mm.
and I did a highlight piece on West Side Story. But also just makes me angry. Maria makes me so angry. um,
I know nothing about the story,
I
so
I left that theater in awe of what Spielberg did. And I think it's a testament to what we were talking about because the
Mm.
original movie rearranged the songs completely. And that's how I actually knew the songs. So when I watched
Mm.
this one, I was like, oh my God, this makes much more sense. I was like, I love that they changed it. And then obviously my sister's in musical theater, Cassandra's roommates, musical theater, they are
Mm.
these people. And so they were like, no, like this is what it's supposed to be. And I was like, that explains why it's so good. And then having so many theater people included in the process and having like it was just beautifully done. It felt like a musical. It
Mm.
didn't lose that feeling. And it made me appropriately angry. Like I left that theater so angry. And I was like, that's a good adaptation if I had the
Yeah.
same exact feelings. I've never seen Tick Tick Boom, the
Wait,
stage
what?
production of it.
Oh,
I've never
I
seen
okay.
have
the
not
stage
seen
Sorry. I
it.
production of
was
it.
like, I
Sorry.
thought we talked about it. Okay.
Um,
Same.
But when I watched that, I went, this is what every movie musical needs to be like.
I've yet to see it.
Because
Yeah, I never saw it.
it's so good. It's so good. My sister and I were yelling at the TV at 2 a.m. because it was so good. And I mean, you can't do that in a theater. We were, especially with Sunday, because that's where they do the dropping of every single Broadway person I love. My sister lost it when Bernadette Peters showed up. But like, it was just so good, and it felt like a musical. And of course, because Lynn directed it, so like, you keep things in the business, or you keep things with people who respect the art, and you're gonna have that happen. So I think those two are my like favorites. Even though I don't like West Side Story, that movie I will rewatch it because it's so good.
I'm gonna see if you can catch this sarcasm. Ready? My favorite is Cats.
Caught. we love. Yeah.
That one is rough.
Fun fact, I've never watched it.
Don't.
And
don't.
I don't think I ever will. I just don't understand Cats, but then the movie,
even if you
obviously.
Don't.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. But yeah, I forgot about Cats, because yes, I would agree with that one. I had also put I feel like Prom didn't get the hit I think people thought it was supposed to.
No. Even with Meryl, it didn't.
I think they went for the star-studded cast versus the theater people, and I think that's why it didn't have that success. And then we already talked about Dear Evan Hansen, because it got released in like crickets. No one was talking about it.
Yeah, I remember that. I was like, when did it come out? 6 months ago?
Right, literally.
Like,
that's how it was. Like, so, but yeah. I agree with like all the excitement and the things that we're like looking forward to, though. I do really hope for the ones that are coming to be like super successful. Wicked's got a long journey to go. As we
it's
already
so far
know.
away.
Yeah, it's far.
It's next year, isn't it? The first one?
Yeah, but it's like end of next year.
November.
Yeah, end of next
November
year.
2024.
Yeah. So we've got
it's okay.
Some time.
That's gonna be the date on my tombstone, because Jonathan Bailey as Fiyero will actually murder me.
They're all gonna eat up. I'm so excited. Like, so Cynthia Erivo alone and then Jonathan alone.
I've seen her live.
Are two.
She's
yes,
so good.
I know.
She's so good. So good.
So that's what I'm saying, though, individually as people, and then to see them come together on screen. Over.
I'm going to be a emotional mess when that comes out.
Comes out of the theater.
I'm like, it was so beautiful.
But yeah, I'm super excited, and I think we're all super excited about what's to come, and even just in theater world too, outside of like movie adaptations of, we talked about it a bit, of like pop culture and theater and like the future of theater. So I am excited to see what changes do come, and I do want some for the better. I do want a little bit more creativity and things like that, as we talked about. So I am excited. I also, I'm really looking forward to The Wiz. Like, that should have been obvious, right? So I'm excited to see that, and if I, assuming I love it, then that will be like the favorite musical in there, not just movie musical, but we shall see how it unravels and unfolds as the cast is slowly being unraveled as well. But yeah, we're gonna start wrapping up. There were some popular and possibly unpopular opinions that we talked about today. Please don't tear us up if you disagree at all. But if you like have thoughts, please feel free to share them kindly. But as we conclude this episode, we hope that the exploration for theater has either opened or deepened in a way. We know that not everybody are musical theater lovers, and so hopefully this could like open up a door for someone. We talked about a lot of different musicals. So something's got to catch, because they were not all in the same category at all. And hopefully it inspires you to see one if you can, and if it's accessible to you, even if it's on tour, if it's a regional production, anything like that. They really like opened up forms of escapism for us, as we talked about, but also just like a whole new level of storytelling, and just pure love of just stories, but also just like, I just love stage in general, and the in-person vibe of just like creativity is really cool. But other than that, this has been the Introvert Social Hour. Please don't forget to follow this podcast to get notified when new episodes drop. You can follow me at KaVonna on Instagram to stay updated as well. And then once again, thank you to my lovely guests, Sabrina and Daniel. You can go ahead and look at the episode description to follow them and stay updated on what they are doing. And then just make sure you get some sunshine. Have an amazing week. And I will see you next week on the Introvert Social Hour. Thank you for joining. Bye.